Hey, Pastor Steve Waldron here. Today we're going to look at an analysis of the New American Standard Bible. Now, obviously, if it's a New American Standard, there must have been an Old American Standard, and that's right. 1901 was the American revision of the revised version of 1881 and 1885 in England, which was supposed to be an update of the King James Version done by the Church of England with, F.J.A. Hort and B.F. Westcott, Brook Falls Westcott, and Frederick John Anthony Hort, this type thing. So the New American Standard was a product of the Lockman Foundation. Now, what is the Lockman Foundation? That was put out by Dewey Lockman, 1942. He was a millionaire citrus grower in La Habra, California. Started and donated a lot of his citrus farms to the foundation for the furtherance of the Christian religion. And so they came up and said, well, we want to come up with a conservative translation of the Bible. And so in 1963, they came out with the New Testament of the New American Standard Bible based on the 23rd edition of the Nestle's Island Greek text. And then in 1971, they came out with the Old Testament and hence the complete Bible. The Old Testament based on the biblical Hebraic of Rudolf Kittel, whose son Gerhard Kittel was a Nazi propagandist, but that's another subject there. But anyhow, so they came up with it. They were using flawed manuscripts. They were using progressive theistic evolutionary mindsets in their manuscripts. That God did not preserve His Word, but it was gradually being recovered after being lost. That there was no church through the centuries. There was no Bible no church that loved the Bible. There was no Bible, but that it's gradually being restored, and hence the 23rd edition, not the 22nd edition, and it goes all the way back to people into the 19th century. Tischendorf, that's who the name I'm searching for there, Count von Tischendorf, and this type thing. So every time a scrap of paper is found in the desert, they'll come, and they're in Munster, Germany, at the Society for Textual Studies, the Institute for Textual Studies and Research, that they'll then revise their text. They'll do weights of what they think was the original text and all of this. They've recently, just in the past couple of years, come out with the 28th edition. The New American Standard was based on the 23rd edition. Now, when people say, what do you think about the New American Standard version of the Bible? I'm like, well, which one? Because they came out with the whole Bible in 71, then they revised it in 72, they revised it again in 73, they revised it again in 77, and then they came out with the NASBU, the New American Standard Bible update, in 1995. Now, their stated goals is they wanted a literal translation of Scripture, Jesus in His proper place. But it doesn't matter how literal it is they're using faulty text. And they would be texts that actually demean Jesus, like some of the original ones. New American Standards would leave out Luke 24 where they worship Jesus and all of this. And what happened is one of the co-founders of this, Dr. Franklin Logsdon. Now, a lot of revisionist history is going forth trying to say he didn't have anything to do with the development of the New American Standard Bible. I've got him in print, I've got him on tape, saying what he did, what he had to do with it. He's basically the co-founder of the New American Standard Bible, and he says that I think he was pastor of Moody Memorial Church, and he says that he was in trouble with God, that the deletions were terrible, that it was terrifying, it was awful, and on and so forth. So he began going around the country teaching seminars against the New American Standard version of the Bible, showing the missing thousands of words that were found in the King James Version. Now, things that are different are not the same. It is incumbent. You cannot say the King James Version of the Bible is a good translation if you believe that it adds tens of thousands of words. You must say that it's terrible and that your children and your grandchildren are memorizing error when you they memorize the King James Version. You can't have it both ways and say, I like the NASBU, but I like the KJV as well. Doesn't work that way, because they are based on two different manuscript bases. There are thousands, there's over 8,000 differences in the Greek text alone. And there are many thousands of differences between the major, such as Vaticanus and Sinaiticus and Alexandrius, just in the Gospels alone, of the other texts. Now, the the Old Testament will be fairly better, but the Blomberg 1525, 1526 edition would be the standard edition of the Masoretic text. When you're in Israel, the Jews say, give me a King James Version of the Bible, because it's going to translate our Old Testament better than any other English translation that we have. It's going to reflect the originals. And so the NASBU, what do I think about it? I think Christians should use the King James Version of the Bible. And basically the 1769 edition, called the Baskerville edition, second folio edition of Benjamin Blaney. They're from Oxford, but it's now the Cambridge text. And I would say that is how God has preserved His Word in the English language, and that the NASBU, like others, is trying to reconstruct a faulty text using evolutionary textual critical methods, and not a faith-building method that true Christians throughout the centuries and the overwhelming number of manuscripts have always supported the manuscript bases behind the King James Version of the Bible. So we may do a more specific analysis at some point, showing you specific scriptures, but this is just an analytical overview of the New American Standard Version of the Bible and the NASBU as well. God bless you today.